What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well, and thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to click on another one of my videos here. And today we're going to be talking about a film called Novocaine. Directed by Berk and Robert Olsen, this film is written by Lars Jacobson and stars people like Quaid, Amber Midthunder, Nicholson, Jacob Batalon, and many more. And before we get too far into this video, if you guys are a fan of up-to-date reviews like this, early reviews, live streams, and the occasional vlog, then you guys are in the right place, and I'd like to ask you to consider subscribing. But if you're a returning viewer, well, thanks so much for coming back once again. And today we're going to be talking about Novocaine, which stars Quaid as a dude who cannot feel any pain, and I saw the trailers for this film and thought it looked like a good fun time. So before we get into my thoughts on the film, let's get into what this movie is all about. Novocaine focuses on the character of Nathan Cain, played by Quaid, an assistant manager at a bank who unfortunately finds himself at the center of a bank heist, and when his love interest Sherry, played by Amber Midthunder, ends up being taken hostage by the bank robbers, he decides to take it upon himself to go and try to rescue her. But what makes this film unique is the fact that he has a genetic disorder that makes it so he can't feel any pain at all. And that is the general gist of this film. Overall, I think Quaid brings a nice, fun, likable, awkward performance to this film. He plays a character who doesn't really have much of a social life. He's kind of disconnected. The fact that he has this genetic disorder has also made him, somebody who's alienated from a lot of people. He was teased for it when he was a kid, but also he's kind of afraid to hurt himself. He has to kind of be wary of things. There's a lot of expository dialogue in the first 20 minutes or so of the film to kind of give us an idea of how he lives and what he has to do in order to take precautions to not hurt himself, since he doesn't feel the pain. He doesn't want to cause an accident of himself and not even be able to be aware of the fact that he hurt himself. So we kind of get a lot of expository dialogue at the very beginning of the film to learn a little more about him. But I think that Quaid in recent years has been an actor I've really enjoyed, and I think he brings a fun, likable, charming performance at the center here. You can definitely root for him. And then when it comes down to Amber Midthunder as Sherry, the love interest here, I think she brings a fun, flirtatious energy, which instantly gives the two of them some great chemistry, and ultimately allows it to be a movie where you can root for our main lead going after the love of his life. As the movie plays out, though, what you have is a big, fun ragdoll action film where you have this dude at the center who can take a punch and bounce back immediately, who doesn't really necessarily know how to fight, so it leads to some really fun, silly choreography where he's kind of stumbling his way through a lot of these action sequences, leading to some pretty silly, over-the-top humor and action. For the most part, what I'll say about this film when it comes down to that action is that it's a movie that very much asks you to live in a heightened reality. This is by no means a film that's living in a grounded territory. This is a film that's asking you to recognize that it's going to be over the top and silly because you have a character at the center who should have had a concussion and who easily should have passed out because of all the blood loss way earlier in the film. But because of the fact that he's this character who can take a punch and bounce back because he doesn't feel the pain, he just kind of gets himself going throughout the movie. He will get up and keep going throughout the course of the film, no matter what kind of damage he takes, which leads to the film in a lot of ways feeling very cartoony. And it's funny because I had a woman behind me who kept saying, "Oh, this movie's so non-realistic. This movie is just not what I expected it to be." And if you've seen the marketing for this film, unfortunately I should say, the trailer shows way too much for this movie. So many of the greatest funny moments and action moments are in the trailer, so it did kind of feel like I was checking a box while I was watching this film. But also I feel like the trailer very much sells this as a very over-the-top action film, so I do think it's important to go into a movie like this and understand that you need to suspend your disbelief. By no means is this film asking you to live in a grounded reality, because that's not what this film is. But overall, I think that the action sequences and the element at the center here of having this character that has this genetic disorder who can't feel pain, they definitely have fun with that. They lean into that part of it the most. They allow a lot of the action sequences to lean into the silliness of this character being able to completely be beaten into a pulp, but be able to bounce back immediately and be able to, kind of scurry around. And, there's a scene, if you've seen the trailer, where he's getting tortured and like it doesn't really work on him. So there's some fun humor around the fact that he can't take pain. And I think that Quaid does a great job there. I enjoyed him. I enjoyed Amber Midthunder. You also have Nicholson in here as the villain, who in a lot of ways plays a pretty straightforward generic bad guy, but I think there was some fun surprises around the bad guys in the film that kept the film interesting, despite the fact that the bad guys guys here are familiar and pretty one note. I don't necessarily know that the writing around any of these characters really ever made this film feel exceptional. When it comes down to the rest of the filmmaking, it's a pretty competently straightforward shot action movie. I don't really know that there's anything on a cinematography level or a musical score level or on a script level that really elevated this film to the next level. But this seems like the nice fun time that's something like you could take your wife to go enjoy yourself. You can go and watch this with your family. Of course, it is an R-rated film, so keep that in mind. But it's the kind of movie I could see some friends throwing on as well on a streaming service down the line and just having a good lazy Saturday night with each other. I don't necessarily know if this is a film you need to rush to theaters to see, but I do think there's some fun over-the-top action in the film if you want to go and check it out. I don't necessarily know if the story really demands that big screen experience, but I think that Jack Quaid, Amber Midthunder, Ray Nicholson, and even Jacob Batalon, who's in this film, who very much plays a little bit more of a raunchier version, or at least a little bit more of an R-rated version of the character of Ned from Spider-Man, is a little bit more sarcastic in this movie, but he was solid in the film as well. And I think for the most part, the cast is solid here. There's some fun action, but I don't really have an abundance to say on this film beyond that because the story is pretty paper thin. It's a pretty straightforward rescue mission story with some cool action in the center. I don't necessarily know this is the film that I loved, but I enjoyed it. I found it to be a good time. I found myself having fun. And by the time the movie was over, I go, that was a harmless watch. Not necessarily something I'm clamoring to revisit immediately, but something that I'm glad I saw. I think Jack Quaid and Amber Midthunder definitely give you something to think about after the movie is over in terms of a good fun time, but I don't necessarily know this is a movie, though, again, to rush to theaters to see. So that's going to be my thoughts on Novocaine. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about this film. Did you like this film? Did you not like this film? If you saw it, are you planning on checking it out? Whatever the case may be, leave any and all comments down below, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Bye-bye.